the Smith & Wesson Model 4006. Let's check it out. Big thanks to the California Highway Patrol. Back in 1986, the FBI got into a shootout in Dade County, Florida, where a number of FBI agents were shot, and they were having a really hard time putting down the assailants with 9mm. It kind of changed the whole outlook of the duty weapon for officers in the FBI and actually all across the country. The FBI looked at 10mm and then decided to go with a shortened 10mm, which is the 40 Smith & Wesson. Smith & Wesson was the first company to design a 40 caliber, and it was the 4006, but they were a little late in releasing it to the market, and Glock beat them to the punch 1 week earlier with the Model 22 and then following the Model 23. But Smith & Wesson was the very first to design a 40 caliber. Now this is one of the 4006s, but it is the TSW, which stands for Tactical Smith & Wesson. This is actually a California Highway Patrol, or CHIPS, model for those who used to watch the old TV show CHIPS. And over the period of years, 40 Smith & Wesson was serving in over 65% of the police agencies across the country. From that time, most of your agencies are now going back to the 9mm. Because of self-defense loads, they're really good. The recoil is a little bit less. You have a higher round count. So there's a number of reasons, but 40 caliber is still an excellent round. And one of the reasons why we're seeing this pistol in particular is because it's a police trade-in. These are being exchanged for Smith & Wesson M&Ps right now. This particular 4006 served with the California State Highway Patrol from 1996 all the way to 2009. And some of these are still in service, and many of them are still training pistols. So we're going to check to make sure the gun is unloaded. We're going to remove the magazine, check the chamber. Of course, it is empty. We have a decocker right here, but what I love about it is it snaps back. So you're never really on safe. You've either got it double action, single action, which I really like that feature. The Beretta is one that when you decock it, it stays in the decock position, and a lot of the Smith & Wessons are the same. Once you decock it, it stays in that position. To get it back activated, you've got to push that decocker back up. And so this is really nice. Now, this is an 11 round magazine. It's not the highest round, but this is what California went with. It's the same size as your 9mm. This gun comes with 3 magazines. They are stainless steel. And one of the things I want to say before we really kind of get started is this gun is actually from Copper Custom, which one of the partners is actually Tim from the Military Arms Channel. And Tim got in touch with me, and he said, I've got a number of these and we're looking to sell them, and so he wanted to send me one to do a review on. Now, one of the sad things is in California you cannot purchase this pistol. It is not an approved pistol, which is a real shame. But one of the cool things that Tim's doing is for each pistol sold, he's taking $15 and sending it to the California Gun Owners Association to help fight against laws and regulations against the Second Amendment. So one of the first things is this is a great pistol to buy. Number one, it's a very collectible pistol because of its heritage and where it served, but also because it helps the Second Amendment in California. There's a big billboard right across here, 40 Tactical Smith & Wesson. Right here with the serial number, the model 4006 Tactical Smith & Wesson. And then you have the CHP, which stands for California Highway Patrol, included in the serial number. But here on the other side is the actual serial number starting with an E. Now this is a Gen 3 model, and with the Gen 3s they had a one-piece wraparound grip. This is what they call Xenoi. It's kind of a polymer finish. Has checkering coming around, and of course on the back, and then the front strap is checkered really nice. but the grip still has a pretty ergonomic feel to it, even though it's a pretty large pistol. Now you have your beaver tail that comes out, it's extended, so that's going to help. Also, when the recoil comes back, just gives you a little more leverage right at the back here. Of course, the larger slide release, and then again the ambidextrous decocker, which, as you can see, it's on both sides. We have a mag release right here, and it is switchable to the other side. You have your slide serrations right here, very easy to grip. And one of the things about the decocker or the safety is that it actually helps and aids in bringing that back. Almost like ears that you have on the VP9, just allows you to bring that back. Now, with the magazine out, you'll notice that there's a magazine disconnect, which most law enforcement agencies like that feature, because if they're being attacked and a perpetrator is trying to pull the gun or gets the gun away from the officer, he can just drop the magazine and the gun's pretty much inoperable. Me personally, I don't like that for personal self-defense, but I understand why they have it. The magazine is flared, so it helps for those magazines to go in and out very easily, and then they pop right out. I mean, they shoot out. Now this is an all stainless steel pistol, the slide and the frame, which makes it a very heavy pistol. In fact, it weighs about 40.5 ounces. And it's one of the complaints with the California Highway Patrol was that it was pretty heavy. But one of the great things about the weight of this pistol is it really tames the .40 Smith & Wesson. One of the things too is that's a little different from your standard .40-06 is that it has an integral Picatinny rail. And this is really when they first started coming out. The original .40-06s had a attached, in fact it was screwed onto, it was a black anodized finish, and that was the Picatinny rail, but with this one it is built in. Another thing the CHP called for was a heavier frame. They didn't want the light frame of the 9mm because of the higher pressures, and not necessarily pressures, but just the heavier bullet and more of the recoil that's produced with the .40. In fact, there have been reports from training facilities in California where a lot of these pistols have exceeded 100,000 rounds. Now, to illustrate how the frame has been beefed up, you can see this is a 5903, which is an aluminum version of the 5906. Much smaller dust cover right here. You can see how it's beefed up. And even here, you've got extensions here, but then with the .40, it goes all the way out. With the frame of the 9mm, it rides just under the slide, but with the .40, it actually extends just a little bit over. Here you can actually see the frame sticking past the slide, and here it dips down just a little bit. So that's going to give you a lot of strength, and especially shooting .40 caliber. But that's just the way this was designed. Now, one thing you'll notice on the .40 caliber magazines, there's a small bump, which there's not on the 9mm. With the 9mm magazine, you can actually stick it right into the mag well. With the .40 caliber, that little bump is going to keep you from being able to push that in. So it just helps for you to differentiate, especially in the dark, which magazines you have. Both of these guns have been safety checked with the hammers in the rear position, and you have your decocker for your .40-06. You can see it pops back. With the 5903, it stays in the down position. And so to fire, you have to actually re-engage. Now this 5903 has had Hogue overmold grips attached. You can do the same for the .40-06 if you want to go with the rubber grips. The sights are a 3-dot Novak style sight, and you can see the back sight. It just rides really close, and of course that doesn't allow for one-handed reloads, but it does keep the snagging down. And then here at the front, and it's dovetailed at the front, and there are a ton of aftermarket sights to be able to replace these. To keep the price down, the trigger and the hammer are memmed, and they're from forgings, so it just helps with cheaper pricing for the California Highway Patrol. You can see that they're kind of rudimentary, and this has been drilled out. It is a bobbed hammer, and so we're going to put the magazine in, and I'm going to show you it is a bobbed hammer. It doesn't have the hammer spur, and that was really made to keep from accidental discharges. Of course, that first round is double action, and you can see the hammer coming back. Subsequent shots will have the hammer in the rear position. And so you've got your fire and a super short reset. In fact, that reset really surprised me. Now the double action trigger pull, which typically is pretty heavy, it's super smooth. Nice break. Then we get to the single action. It's really just a little bit of take up right here. Nice crisp snap. Reset, super fast. I mean, that reset is super fast. Okay, we're going to use a Lyman trigger gauge to check the single action trigger pull. 7 pounds 1 ounce. 6 pounds 12 ounces. 6 pounds 12 ounces. So it's a fairly heavy single action, but it's very crisp. As far as double action, we may not be able to get the reading. Oh, 11 pounds 8.5 ounces. 10 pounds 7.5 ounces. 10 pounds 11 ounces. The pistol is 7.5 inches in length. It's 5.5 inches in height. It's fairly thin in a way, but then once you get the controls out here, it kind of thickens it up. I mean, this is definitely reserved for a duty pistol or a sidearm, and great for the range, great for a home defense or bedside gun. But this would be really heavy to carry for concealed carry. And the barrel is 4 inches in length. There is a loaded chamber indicator right here at the top of the barrel. You'll be able to see the brass. I don't have a .40 caliber dummy round, so I'll probably show you this from the range. We're shooting 185 grain jacketed hollow point HPR, which is no longer in business, unfortunately. So I just had some extra. I wanted to shoot it. It's good, clean shooting stuff. Hopefully they'll come back. We're also going to be shooting some Federal Hydroshock, and this is 135 grain. With the heavier frame, the pistol definitely shot more like a 9mm. With a polymer frame or lighter weight pistol, you're getting more recoil with the 40. Now for me, once you master that, you really enjoy it and you like it. Once you get used to the recoil pulse, it has a totally different type feel, the recoil, than even 9 or 45. That's one of the things I liked about this extra frame. Yes, it is heavy. But again, it's all about physics, and the heavier it is, the more it's going to manage the recoil. The ergonomics on the pistol, it felt fine, no hot spots in the hand while I was shooting. It's a Smith & Wesson 3rd generation. I mean, these things obviously have been around for a long time and have proven themselves for years. And this is no different. Seemed to be all up to par. No malfunctions at all. The only thing that I did find was in one of the magazines, I could only load 8 rounds. And as much as I tried to push, it just seemed like I couldn't quite get any more than 8. The other 2 loaded up to 11, but once it got up to the 10 and 11, it started getting really tough to load. But the magazine's fed well. The sights are easy to pick up, the 3-dot sights. The rail worked fine. I tried one of the Viridian laser lights, and it just functioned fine. Gloved hands, no problem. So overall, I'm really pleased with this firearm. I knew I would be because it's a 3rd generation Smith & Wesson, which they're just excellent guns. Obviously, it's the pinnacle for this type of firearm, along with maybe the SIG P226. Yes, it's old school. No, it's not polymer. It's not striker fire. But there's a lot of soul with these type pistols. With the heft and this beaver tail, the ergonomics, it just kind of fits together. I mean, this gun is very well designed for what it is. 39.5 ounces. You definitely feel it, but with a good holster, and maybe carrying this out in the woods would be a nice option. But it's just one of those classics that just never grows old. I read a lot of the Smith & Wesson forums, and a lot of those guys would love for Smith to bring back one of the 3rd generation pistols, just for keeps. I mean, everybody just really enjoys these, and definitely when the market switched to polymer, it kind of changed things for Smith & Wesson, and they went with where the market was going, which was smart on their part. But still definitely a very viable option. ShootSteel.com targets, want to thank them for providing the music. Now for disassembly, remove your magazine, double check to make sure the gun is unloaded. We're going to bring the slide back, and we're going to line up that cut in the slide with this part of the slide release. And then on the other side, take a punch and just pop it through. And then you can just bring this forward. Here we have an all steel guide rod. It's not captive. That's really beefy, and that was one of the things that the California Highway Patrol asked for. Then you have your barrel. One of the things about the barrel which is kind of unique is that because it is 40 caliber and it still fits in a 9mm style slide, it's very thin. I mean, the walls of the barrel are thin, but obviously this holds up well. You can see the different design of the Smith & Wesson. And here we have the gun fully field stripped. Of course, just reverse order to get it back in place. This little nipple on the recoil spring guide rod goes toward the back. Little notch in the barrel where it fits. Now you notice there's a number of bars that are spring loaded that are sticking up. These will have to be depressed as the slide comes back, but one of the things, this bar right here can't be depressed with the hammer in the rear position. So we're just going to go ahead and drop it. Be careful not to drop it and slam it, and that'll allow that to push down. So we're going to go ahead and put our slide over our slide rails and then just begin to push down each one as it comes to it. Now bring it back into that same position with the cut right here. Drop in your slide release. Now, because of the magazine disconnect safety, throw in your magazine, check for function. And we're good to go. Now that a lot of law enforcement agencies are moving away from 40 caliber back to 9mm, it really opens up a lot of firearms to the civilian market in 40 caliber with pistols that are really high quality. You know, the Smith & Wesson Gen 3s are just excellent pistols, and this is a great deal. In fact, this came from Copper Custom. One of the great things about this is it's $399. It comes with 3 magazines. It has the heritage of the California Highway Patrol. That in itself is just great as a collector's item, and they seem to be in really good shape. One of the things too is, again, is that $15 of each sale for these guns go into the California Gun Owners Association, which is helping to fight for Second Amendment rights in California. Guys, we need to be helping these guys in these states that are under attack. At the end of the day, all of us are Americans and we're fighting for the same thing. And if it falls in California, you know, of course, and then in Illinois, and then you got Connecticut and Maryland. I mean, you got all these places that the rights are being restricted, and we need to fight to turn that around. It affects us all. And so this is a great way not only to get a hold of a really great pistol with extra magazines at a good price, but also to help our fellow California gun owners. As far as pros and cons of the pistol, pro is definitely the beefed up frame. Really handles that recoil. This is a pleasure to shoot. It's a lot of fun to shoot at the range. And yet you've got, you know, 180 grain bullet coming out, compared to a lot of the 115 grains of your 9mm. So you have a lot of power and a lot of energy. That would translate into a really good self-defense round. The stainless steel is just solid. This gun's going to last for a long time. With the accessory rail, I love that. With some of the older pistols, you just don't get that. So it's nice to have it. There's a lot of aftermarket support for these pistols, even with grips, sights, you name it. That's a huge plus. Now, the cons would be the weight, and with the beefed up frame, it's going to be heavier. So this is not going to be really great for a concealed carry, but you know, it's still, again, very shootable at the range, which makes it fun. So it's one of those trade-off kind of things. Another con was magazine. Had a little problem with that one, but you know, maybe a magazine, maybe there was a bump in it. I kind of checked it over, but I didn't really have time to look it over. But you know, you're getting 3 magazines, so you're doing pretty good. Aftermarket magazines are going to be fairly expensive, so it's nice that you're getting 3. So that would definitely be a con. One more plus though would be the price. For $399, it's a great price. And 2, giving back to the California Gun Owners Association, I think that's huge as well. One con that I failed to mention is 11-round magazine capacity. I mean, that's pretty weak for this size pistol, but you do get 3 magazines, so that makes up for a lot of it. Now I want to thank Copper Custom for sending this pistol for this test and evaluation and getting the word out. And of course, I would definitely appreciate Tim at Military Arms Channel for standing firm with the Second Amendment and doing what he's doing with these pistols. So check out coppercustom.com. I'll have the information down below in the description. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic. but once it got up to the 11, but they still, those two did fine. One thing also I want to, okay, but all this, okay. So check out Copper is going to the California Highway Patrol, going to the California Gun Owners Association. Shoesteel.com targets, I want to thank them for oh yeah, we're going to go gangsta style. Oh yeah.